Hello and welcome to the Card Deck Creator Interview Series with me, Aisha Hilton. Today I'm joined by the lovely Stephanie and Karla, all the way from the US, and they have a gorgeous deck called Radiant Wisdom Deck. And funnily enough, we're all sort of coordinating to the color of your deck, ladies. So I'll start with Stephanie. What's your background? Like, what do you do with yourself? And then I'll ask you, Karla.
I love that. I love the way you phrase that question. What do you do with yourself? So I'm actually in higher education. So I teach at a university and manage a staff for a center for well-being for students.
That's beautiful. Okay. Are you allowed to say which uni or do we have to?
I don't know.
Okay. So, well, you can tell me when we stop recording. Okay. And Karla, what about
Hi,
you?
Liz. So what do I do with myself during the day? I work as a curriculum developer, instructional designer for a public media station here in Baltimore, Maryland, and I develop online professional development and instructional resources for pre-K through 12 classrooms and the teachers who serve the students in those classrooms.
You got a lot on. So you're both educators and develop curriculum, manage people by the sounds of it as well. So how do you two know each other?
That's the
That
fun
goes
part.
back quite a ways. We actually went to college together. We went to Penn State University together,
Oh, wow.
and have been friends ever since. We also took writing workshops together. That really not only helped us to hone our love of writing, but it also let us know that we did really great projects together. And enjoyed the style that each other had and really fed off of each other. So we've published together previously. And so this is actually a second opportunity to do a project together.
Fabulous. So I'll ask Karla this. What did you publish in your previous project or projects together?
We developed a collection of poetry developed in a call and response style. That's something that Stephanie and I really find engaging and really, really satisfying. We're not geographically close to each other. So outside of these workshops where we were together and had an opportunity to kind of dive in and practice the practice, we realized when we both, went our separate ways that we can continue it through the beauty of technology, through text messages in particular. And in a very short period of time, we developed volumes of poetry that supported us through the space and place where we were at that moment in time in our own personal lives. Fast forward just I think it was actually in and around the haze of the pandemic, but Stephanie was invited or agreed to participate in a co-authoring opportunity of a book with multi-authors. And she called me one day like, hey, got something to share with you. And so even though that was a slightly different approach in that we each authored a chapter of a multi-author book, we still were able to connect, support, encourage, motivate each other through our individual process in that collective book. And then here we are with a deck.
So fabulous. I love the synergy of how you've worked together and, you come together physically now and then, at a course or a workshop, and then you're able to continue that. You're actually the first people I've interviewed with a co-authored deck. So this is exciting. So I'll have a few questions about that process down the track. So tell us a little bit about your deck. And I will share it now if you like. So I've just brought it up on the Deckible website. So for those who don't know, Deckible is a digital card deck app, and it works on your phone and your iPad, whatever. The website is quite basic. The app is much more advanced, and you can't at the moment do readings with the deck. This the sales page for the deck, and I've just made it extra big so that we can see it. So this is the Radiant Wisdom deck, and obviously we all like the color palette you've chosen, and I love mandalas. So firstly, congratulations on the deck. It's
Thank you.
very, very beautiful, and I'd just love to hear more about how it came about.
So like Karla mentioned, the the call and response we really gravitated towards. And it was actually a really healing process for us to do that. So I might ask a question like, cherish, or I cherish. And then Karla would respond based on just what was going on in her life. Or she might pose a statement, I affirm. And then based on what was going on in my life, I would respond. And it wasn't on a set schedule. So sometimes I would wake up in the morning and find this prompt there. And for me, it was always an invitation to like reflect. So sometimes I was like, uh-oh, like what's going to come up today now that that prompt has invited me to reflect on, you know, whatever that word is. But when we looked back at them, it really just, again, for the time period that we were engaging in this process, it was so healing and affirming to witness each other responding, because it usually resonated so deeply. And again, it was just that synergy that was created. So although we were in different states, we would just send this wonderful prompt as an invitation to reflect.
I have to just piggyback on that a little bit, because in that invitation that we extended to each other, that's part of our goal with the deck, is so that for the people who choose to get the deck and engage with it, we also are extending that same invitation for the user to really kind of hone in on themselves and allow the deck to draw them inward to what they need to reflect on, consider, you know, kind of ideate what they want to manifest. Just really take that inner focus to understand what they want and need in order to move forward.
Beautiful. And it's a lovely deck. How many cards? You have 50 cards in your deck. So that's a lot of, you know, call and response. Love it. And then did you design it together? How did you go about designing it?
How did we go about designing it? How did we start that process? I know how we ended.
So I think initially we had all the words, the affirmations there. And then with your course, Aisha, and all of the designs and the templates that you gave us, and all of the wisdom that you gave us in terms of different websites to use, where to get stock images, we kind of combed through those and found images that resonated, and then used your template to create. So it was wonderful.
Because I really love the color palette. I'll just share it again so people can see it. So I'm loving that. Obviously teal is like my favorite color, but I love how it's a gradient as well. So it gives like, I don't know if this is the right word, but it's sort of a sensual sort of, it feels quite sensual. And then if we look in, like, I treasure simple joys and tender mercies. And I feel like the colors really work beautifully together, like the grayish brown and this like red is quite hard to do online, but this color is really perfect. So these backgrounds, did you just get them from Canva, the gradients, or did you buy them as a gradient square?
Well, we decided from a design perspective, we wanted, we like the idea of a square card as opposed to rectangular. But in terms of the actual graphics, we purchased stock graphics.
Yeah.
And then we worked to create, you know, like the front of the card. And then the back of the card with the writing, we worked with a graphic designer who helped us take that glow effect, you know, that inherent radiance of the deck. Also speaking to, you know, as individuals, our inner radiance shining outwards. We wanted to bring that through. We wanted to keep the deck as simple yet stimulating as possible, if that's a doable thing.
And I think that's what you're getting, like the way they've done. It's almost like in photography, you know, where you have the black shadows on the edges and then your eyes drawn to the middle. So
Right.
yeah, no, it's really beautiful. And the way you've just used the mandala, little hints of the mandala, it's beautiful. So what were did you experience any challenges when you were making the deck, like finding a graphic designer to help you? Because obviously a lot of people are going to be doing it themselves, but there are other people that want to get some expert help. If not from me, then from someone else. So yeah, how did you go about that?
We did actually look for graphic design support, through some platforms and outlets where you can hire folks,
Yeah,
but it
like
didn't
Fiverr and
work
stuff.
out too well. And
Yes.
so,
We've all had done experiences there. Yeah.
we just used our personal network. And actually a very good friend of mine that I work with was really interested in supporting and helping us. So he lent his talents and his skills to really help us consider what effect or what
Yeah.
style would get us the effect that we wanted. So we went through a few iterations, not many,
Mm,
but we went through a few iterations until we landed on the style that you see now as the deck.
beautiful. And did you have any challenges? Like you two seem to work quite synergistically together, and it was almost like this organic process. Were there any challenges or miscommunication, or was it quite a smooth process?
It was pretty smooth in terms of the content of it. That flowed really naturally. Um, I would say, if anything, there were pauses just because life gets in the way.
Yes.
Things happen, work happens, we both work and are wives and mothers and daughters and just all the things, but we were so compassionate and patient with each other that
Mm,
there was no rush. We might set a timeline, but there was always this caveat, like if that doesn't work, we can always do it in a different time period. So I think that allowed the creative juices to keep flowing as opposed to
mm.
creating the stress or the pressure around it.
Yeah, or resentment that
Um,
some people, like,
yeah,
yeah. So just kept that
absolutely.
beautiful flow. Yeah.
And similar to what Karla said about our network, we also have a really good network of friends that are interested in the work that we do. And so we had folks that read for us and gave feedback, which is part of why the deck is 50 instead of originally, I think it was like 23 or 25.
There wasn't
And
enough juiciness there. They wanted
yeah,
more.
It wasn't.
There's
exactly.
more. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah,
Upsize.
like so we
Yeah.
definitely put feedback and would meet and go through the notes that we got from the feedback and really apply that to
Yeah.
expand the deck. Mhm.
Beautiful. So, for anyone that's listening that is thinking of doing a deck with someone else, what advice would you give them now that you've been collaborating on multiple projects? I feel like you're a good source of information on that process.
I think for me, I would encourage um, creators to be in touch with the why as an individual and as a creative collective. Um, and, really kind of answer as honestly and fully as possible, why do you want to do this? What does it mean for you? Kind of answer the who, what, why, when, and where, and
Yeah.
how. Um, again, as individuals, and kind of bring that together and have open conversation around that, because the idea may sound great, but how you work together, why you want to do it, you need to see if that synergy, as you said, and that resonance um, line up together. And I think for Stephanie and I, never, I never want to take it for granted, yet at the same time, there's a steady confidence that I trust if I bring something to her or receive something um, from her as an idea, I know that we can go through this honest process together in a very compassionate way, but with a lot of inquiry, of self and in each other. So I really think that kind of inquiry approach would be a great foundation for any, creators who want to work together.
And I would just piggyback on that with trusting each other's creative process and giving each other grace in terms of timing, communicating, being willing to be vulnerable with each other. There were certain phrases that might come that, were really emotional. And so although you might see one affirmation on that card, there may have been conversations, several
Yeah.
conversations around what that evoked
Yep.
on the back end.
So I'm sure for yourself, it was a partly transformational experience, just the process in itself, and then putting like your heart and soul into this deck, and we can see that. And I think you've done a great job. I love how you work together. I can just, as soon as you two came on the call, there was just this, you just have this gorgeous energy that you work together. And I seen that you're compassionate and you're using the word grace a lot, which I love because that's my daughter's name. So I'm very much into grace. So I can see that that's, informed the work as well. Is there anything else you want to share about the project that I haven't addressed?
No, I would just say, like, maybe for folks that are first time publishing, just the process of sharing and birthing your work and allowing others to see it and witness it, that itself is transformational. So yeah,
Regardless of the outcome, just actually committing to your own dream as well and putting it out there, regardless of the outcome. That's probably what I've always found is the biggest gift from doing a deck, or I used to be a book coach from doing a book, is that your commitment to yourself, really, and showing up for yourself. Yeah, beautiful. Karla, did you want to add anything there?
I guess the only thing else that I would add is just trust yourself. If the seed is there and you can feel it germinating and you want to see what it's going to bloom into, just trust yourself to at least try. I know as Stephanie mentioned, like sometimes our deadlines were extended past our original hope. And we both equally had that feeling of not wanting to leave a part of us undone because of a creative process that we had started. And and I just think that speaks volumes to what it does from an internal space to know that you've created to give something outside of you. Even if it's just for yourself to look at, but it's a part of your own desires and gifts that you're sharing outside of yourself. And that is a huge, huge step to take. So faith.
Well done. Are you working on anything else together, or are you just taking a breath after this project, or is something percolating? You don't have to say exactly what it is, but I'm just curious.
Well, there is the print version of what's on Deckible that is a process too that we want to bring to fruition. So
Yeah,
there's part of it.
I love square decks. Like my Finding Grace in Challenging Times deck is square, and they're really fun to shuffle, and it's nice to have that tangible. Yeah. So well, that's a process in itself, doing the print version. Feel free to reach out and ask any questions. And then how are you promoting your deck?
right now, just through Deckible. But I think once we have the print version ready, that we would create a website where people could go to order the deck and any future decks.
Yes.
Yes.
And I will include a link, obviously, to Deckible under the video, under this video, and also I will happy to link off to your poetry book as well. So we'll do that. Is that available on Amazon? How have you published that?
Well, we do have on Amazon the co-authored book,
Yeah.
where Stephanie wrote a chapter and I wrote a chapter along with other authors.
Yes.
That is available on Amazon.
And what have you done with your poetry book? How have you published that?
We've published it. We published it originally through the iBooks platform.
Oh, yes. So it's
and
digital.
then it went through change. It went through a change. So that's another publication that we're wanting to move towards print.
Yeah, and you can just use KDP for that, probably,
right,
to make it as easy as possible. Yeah,
exactly. And because it was a multimedia experience, but what we decided was to use some of those elements as promotional elements, and then have a print version of the book, like you said.
Because just thinking out loud here, that book, poetry can be a deck as well, and a multimedia experience on Deckible. So if you imagine, you open up the Deckible app, there's your deck of poetry that you've written together. You can have video, you can have audio. So one of you or both of you can be reading the poems. If you've got videos, you can add them in. So that might be something to consider, rather than you can have a print version, but if you want to keep that multimedia aspect, you could actually do it on Deckible.
Love that.
Very interesting.
I don't know how long these poems are, but you can have multiple sides on a deck if they're shorter poems. But
I will say between our poetry and even the deck, part of personal goals for Stephanie and I, because we're so accustomed to writing in and around academia, that it was an effort for us and a goal for us, a lesson for us, really is the better word, on how to say what we wanted to communicate as succinctly as possible, with very intentional word choices to really elicit and share, a lot of deep feelings and kind of, generate, and that stimulation, different imaginings and thought process for the person who's reading, for the reader. So that was a lesson for us. How do we take longer, poetic, lengthier content and really distill it down to the truth of what we wanted to communicate as best as possible. So our poetry, similar to the deck, is in much shorter verses and phrases.
So it sounds like it would be a perfect little thing for Deckible. Just saying. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Me too.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really love your deck. You can check it out on Deckible, and I love what you're doing. I can't wait to see what you create next, whether it's together or solo. And I wish you all the best with your creative endeavors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed that. Wasn't it interesting? And I hope you got some inspiration and some tips from listening to this. So if you're interested in making your own card deck, I invite you to check out the Card Deck Creators Toolkit that I've created for people like you who want to create their own inspirational, affirmation, or oracle card deck. There's so many different card decks that you can create. So I invite you to check out the links below to get the toolkit and get on your way creating. And if you've already created your own card deck, congratulations. Share a link below. I'd love to see it. Much love to you, and take care.